You know, I'm going to talk about spirituality too. This is my response video to Rhiannon's video on spirituality, where she said half-baked ideals about spirituality. I think there are many things that I agree with. The only thing is, I do believe in God. But I don't think of God. I think it's a funny thing about me and God. And I've said this before. I think I tend to piss off people who are, quote, believers, put in quotation marks. Because I doubt that believers are believers. I don't think they're willing to test their faith. My idea about God, however, might put me in a category of being an atheist. Really. My ideals about God. Because I think of God as being more or less a function, not so much an entity. You know, I kind of borrow this ideal from William James. William James wrote he actually gave a lecture, I believe it was, or wrote an essay. It might have been a combination of an essay and a lecture, called "Does Consciousness Exist?" And I thought that was a very intriguing question. Does consciousness exist? You know, ultimately he gets to the point of saying that consciousness doesn't really exist. Consciousness is a function, not so much a thing, not an entity, not a thing in the world. And I think God is not really a thing in the world, but God is a function. See, I think that there's something that we all have called the God function, where we can create miracles. Miracles really aren't so much supernatural events as it is situations where you thought something was impossible. And then you suddenly discover, to your amazement, that what you thought was impossible is actually possible. And you can do this. This is something that's a possibility in your life. Now, I don't talk that much about my religious views to other people. When people ask me, do you believe in God? I say, yeah, I believe in God. But I like to put it more accurately, is to say, to me, I look at God as being as real as I am. God is as real as I am. We tend to talk about God as if God were a person. And I think that's more or less our minds creating a sort of person, because that gives us something to get a hold of. It gives us something to get a grip on, if we can think of God as a person. But I think of God as being more or less a function in nature, a sort of function in nature. Because God doesn't really need to be a person, if you think about it. God doesn't need to be an entity. God doesn't need to be someone sitting there watching everything you do and judging you, and all these horrible things that some people tend to think about when they think about religion and they think about God. And I think that would be terrible. I don't want God spying on me. I don't want God watching me every time I'm in the shower doing things that, you know, the kind of things I might be doing in the shower, other than showering. I don't want God watching that. God, are you watching me? Oh my goodness, let me cover myself up. But that's the thing. But I do believe in God. I have this belief. And I think that faith is an important thing. Because I think about what faith is. And this is just my own ideals about faith. Faith is a word that doesn't necessarily have to even be religious in nature. It's just simply accepting something as being true, just accepting a certain ideal. When I decided a long time ago I wanted to learn to speak Spanish, way back in 1983, not like in 1983, in 1983, I decided I wanted to learn Spanish. I believed I could do it. I had faith that I would actually accomplish this goal. So I set out to do it, and I kept working on it and working on it, and I was unwavering in my commitment to learn to speak Spanish, and I developed fluency in Spanish. And that was a matter of faith, of believing something. I don't have any evidence I could do it, no proof that I could do it, but I kept believing it, and I kept working on it, and I was unwavering in it, and it helped me. Now, getting back to my issue about God, as I said before, some people might actually classify me as an atheist. I'm not, you know, what I think I am and what other people may think I am could be two different things. As I've said before, I don't want people ever writing on my tombstone, Philip was an atheist, because I'm not. I do believe in God. I accept that God is real. I accept God as being as real as, you know, as my own existence, as, you know, the fact that there are other people in the world and other consciousnesses in the world. I don't know how you put conscious in a plural. You know, because I can't get into other people's conscious awareness of the world, but I accept that it's real. And I accept that God is real. And that might be a bit confusing and it may be complicated and people might have 1,000,001 questions that they want to ask me about that. You know, what exactly do I mean? I don't think I can break it down any further. I really don't think I can break that down any further. But that's my view about God. And about spirituality, it is connecting to that unseen part of reality. I think that there is something behind the reality that we take in through our senses. I think that, as William James was saying, that basically that's what science and religion are trying to do, is trying to get to the world behind the world behind the world of mere appearances. Because if we don't believe in that, we wind up only believing in the world as it appears. We wind up being trapped in a prison of naive realism. That's a word I actually learned to love. I love that word, naive realism, because it's basically accepting that everything is exactly as it appears. And as Einstein said, that the one thing that science has taught us is that nothing is as it appears. That's the one most important lesson of science, is that nothing is the way it appears to be. And that's pretty much what I have to say.